Hello there. Social media is awash with commentary about the Hamas attack on Israel, and the European Union has already stepped in to make sure that we get the correct information. The European Union Commission has found a use for its new Digital Services Act, censoring comments about the Hamas attack on Israel on social media, especially on Elon Musk's X. The Commissioner for the EU Internal Market, Thierry Breton, has written a letter to Elon Musk saying that the Commission has indications that X is being used to disseminate illegal content and disinformation in the EU. Indications, but no proof? And Musk was given 24 hours to respond. Breton went on proudly declaring that, "Let me remind you that the Digital Services Act sets very precise obligations regarding content moderation." And he also said that Musk needed to be very transparent and clear on what content is permitted under his terms, and consistently and diligently enforce those policies, which Breton said was particularly relevant where terrorism and violent content was concerned. And he criticised Musk's latest public interest policies that Breton said left many European users uncertain. But Musk is not the one that makes the law. The EU Commission is the one that makes the law and decides what is illegal and what is not illegal. The EU law enforcement and courts should then issue takedown notices, etc. for specific material as it arises. This sounds like the EU going for a bullying overreach to try and get X into a position of "don't mention the war." That way the EU commissars can totally control the narrative within the fortress EU. And I've got to say this is a very good propaganda testing ground for the new EU rules. Now, I've only seen the letter to Musk. I wonder if Breton has also written to other social media outlets. If not, is this the EU trying to target Musk's X for taming? But the Commission might also want to take a look at what the newspapers are saying, and especially the comments they are allowing, many of which could be classed as mis- and disinformation. Anyway, Breton did say that Musk must obey takedown notices and that he is allowing illegal content to continue to circulate on X despite flags from relevant authorities. And he ended with the threat that "I remind you that following the opening of a potential investigation and a finding of non-compliance, penalties can be imposed." Now, Breton also states in his letter that public media and civil society organisations widely report instances of fake and manipulated images and facts circulating on the X platform within the EU. And he mentions repurposed old images of unrelated armed conflict or video game-based military video footage. This appears to be manifestly false or misleading information, Breton writes. Now, that would depend totally on the context within which those images and videos are used. They could be there merely for illustrative purposes. Not only that, those reporting these images and videos may well have a vested interest in so doing. Now, Musk replied to the letter using his own X account, saying, "Our policy is that everything is open source and transparent, an approach that I know the EU supports. Please list the violations you allude to on X so that the public can see them. Merci beaucoup." To which Breton answered, "Vous, merci. You are well aware of your users and authorities' reports on fake content and glorification of violence. Up to you to demonstrate that you walk the talk. My team remains at your disposal to ensure DSA compliance, which the EU will continue to enforce rigorously." I've got to say that this does seem rather heavy-handed, especially when there's no indication of Breton taking on any other platform in such a manner. Now, I may be wrong about that. Other letters might surface later. There are, however, EU parliamentary elections coming up in June next year, 8 months away. And with the EU electorate tiptoeing slowly to the right as the Eurocrats fail disastrously on controlling their borders, amongst other things, now might be a good time to tame social media, so that they become used to being compliant with Commission instructions on what is the correct sort of material to have on the web, and which MEPs produced the correct information. But surely the EU Parliament is incorruptible to such things. Wonder how the Qatargate inquiry is getting on. Yep, it's quietly being squashed. After revelations of all that cash, 1.5 million euros of it, being found last December, and MEPs and officials having connections with Qatar and voting for the benefit of Qatar, we hear that the case has been kicked into the long grass of May next year, to the point it now faces collapse. Money talks, it seems. Either that or the EU machine is winding it all down to avoid mass embarrassment, with the only positive outcome being that MEPs have voted to slightly tighten the rules on ethics and transparency. Something that Politico called nips, tucks and paperwork. And remember that one MP, Pier Antonio Panzeri, confirmed in January that Qatar and Morocco were involved in this scandal. Mr. Panzeri confesses today to having actively participated in acts of corruption in connection with Qatar and in connection with Morocco, and therefore to having been corrupted and to having corrupted others, his lawyer, Laurent Kens, told Euronews. And Panzeri got a plea deal. But it's all going to go away, we now hear. How convenient. Anyway, the EU Commission does want to take Elon Musk to task. And one wonders if Breton is intent on taking the big social media mogul down a couple of pegs, pour encourager les autres. But those who use social media in the EU might find themselves unable to exercise their supposed right to free expression, which means hunting out the information you want as well as producing it. Yes, it's a two-way human right. Under ECHR Article 10, you have the right to hold opinions and to receive and impart information and ideas without interference by public authority and regardless of frontiers. But your rights can be limited by law regarding such things as in the interests of national security, territorial integrity or public safety, for the prevention of disorder or crime, for the protection of health or morals. But protecting us all from misinformation or disinformation or wrongthink does not seem to feature. Do we not have the right to seek out dis and misinformation, or even produce it? Remember, one person's truth is another person's mis- and disinformation.